we're going to be watching a video called Please Delete One Shot from Zanbot here. So make sure to check out the video. We'll have the video description and the link, all of that. Also, just a note here, too. I'm pretty new to reacting to videos, so if I ever, like, react to your video and, like, for some reason you don't want to react to it, etc., just let me know. I won't make a big deal about it or anything like that, all right? And the video just talks about, you know, the one-shots, etc. We're going to react to it, see it. This is my first time watching it. I've never seen it, so why not? See how it is. Obviously, we have Widow as, like, meta right now. So I think this is a good discussion point. We can kind of talk about some things and go from there, okay? That sound good?
Hi.
Oh, is this one? How'd you get footage of my rank game?
It's one of the most common grievances you'll see on the forums, and knowing the Overwatch community, they don't ask with a please. But being the embodiment of this mechanic in this current day and age, it places this highly apparelled hero on the front lines of this heated discussion. I'll be playing the devil's advocate in this video.
Okay.
Because I am really not a fan of this idea that we should just casually destroy hero capacities that ultimately alter or erase their identities. I mean, what is Widowmaker, if not for her ability to kill in one shot?
Dude, this is crazy because I just talked about this exact point with chat earlier. If Ramatra is going to get the Ramatra hero identity, you need to be able to shoot through shields, etc., and they revert right back, the same thing would happen with Widow, right? So the discussion about one shot becomes very interesting. Now, my take on it, I guess before the video goes here, I can kind of explain it. I think that it's not about removing the one shot, okay? There's also a reason why for a while, you know, it could have been meta-based too, but for a while, Widow wasn't as much of an issue for a bit, right? Now, obviously things have changed, larger hitboxes, different metas, different this. But it's about making the Widow's play more risk, because right now, a lot of it's just reward. All that really needs to be done is you need to bring Widow closer to the battle. Now, you have the other option where you could buff heroes up and do that, but then that causes other issues at the same time. So what needs to happen here is Widow needs to be able to be brought back in, right? Widow can play so far back right now, and all the heroes have lost their fall-off damage. Because a lot of heroes now have a weaker range, a hero like Widow benefits from that, right? Now, obviously, you can try to go Somber, you can dive them, but the problem is that Widow, at least in my rank games, keep in mind, this issue will be different in every rank. In my rank games, you can dive a Widow all day long, but guess what? Two things are happening. One, they're paying attention, and two, their teammates are paying attention. Which means that most of the time you go for a Widow, right? If you even get lucky enough to get within range, they're peeling for the Widow. Instead of, like, delete the one shot, etc., right? Because that's a part of what Widow is. You need to bring the Widow in so the Widow has more risk. Does that make sense? Right now, there's a lot less risk for Widow, and you could say that's because Somber's a lot worse now. And even, although Somber's, like, okay now, I know it's a weird... Somber has, like, good moments, bad moments, but it's a lot easier to react to a Somber now. So that goes back to what I was just saying, where I think you need to be able to bring Widow in to make Widow have more risk, all right? And that's what will fix that issue, because I think then at that point, if a Widow pops off, it's going to be because they're, like, massively hitting their shots, not because they can sit 70 meters back and basically make you have to play hide and seek all day long. If there's other ways that you see Widow could shift and change, etc., that's okay. You know, let me know in the comments and things like that. I'm not trying to... You know, I like to see multiple point of views sometimes, and I think that will be helpful. So, you know, if you have any thoughts on Widow, etc., let me know, because it's always good to know, right? She's already gone her range nerf, though. It's 50 to 70, right? And then all the other heroes have had theirs nerfed down a little bit. That's the problem. There's either two options in that sense. You either increase the range of the other heroes to give them more options to be able to kill a Widow, or you bring the Widow in on the range. Once again, adding more risk.
It's literally her catchphrase.
Okay, if I hit that, okay, cool.
One kill.
And
Well, see, isn't it 6 shots, 1 kill?
Else to the table besides this one and only offering. We have witnessed.
How's the volume levels, by the way, chat? Can you hear me?
The identity out of Hanzo.
Greetings.
And this was a hero who could do multiple things on top of sniping. Now he's on the verge of being completely overshadowed by Ashe. And worst of all is the struggle to find any fun in all of this. Erasing hero identities is out of the question. We have a diverse cast of 40 unique heroes, and reworking every single one of them into Soldier 76 or Ashe defeats the whole point.
First of all, into Soldier 76, I'm going to be real with you. I wish they would make Soldier 76 be playable for me. The reason why I can't play Soldier 76 is I'm getting one shot on cooldown.
Of playing Overwatch. I've done a video discussing about how I would rework Hanzo about a year ago.
Okay.
But in contrast, I don't think there needs to be much of a drastic shift in Widowmaker's kit to address a lot of the pain points associated against this hero. Clearly she has weaknesses, and there are obvious counterplay options available to practically force the hero swap. Now of course, we don't really want to encourage such a polarizing hero swap meta, but rather to fix the interaction of a one-shot mechanic to be more acceptable across the board. I mean, as much as a hero archetype...
How are they finding live... How do they get live footage of my rank games against a Widow? This is live footage. Also, little side note, great editing on this. This is really informative so far. Good job. I like this.
Is that of an outlier. It's not like Widowmaker has a true monopoly on the one-shot kill mechanic per se. Throughout Overwatch's history, there's been plenty of one-shot kill abilities and the like which even till today hardly pull close to a fraction of the...
I will say this, and I'm sure that, and so far the points have been made, I do want to point out, it's a lot easier to Suzu a Diva ult or use a mobile ability to get away, and it's a lot easier to Suzu a charge or like lamp a charge or pull somebody with Lifeweaver. It's not as easy to be able to rack to a Widow headshot, right? So while there is one-shots that exist, they're a little bit easier to deal with, just to point that out.
Clearly, there's a right way to design such abilities, and I wager we should therefore examine these past and present abilities, draw lessons from their designs, and innovate to structure something that works for this hero. Something that feels fair, yet uncompromising to her identity that's truly just touches away from being much less controversial.
Okay, I can see this.
Once upon a time, I was a filthy Symmetra main, and I had a blissful thought. You know, what if I could just hold on to my alt fire, like... forever? At 120 damage max charged, this would net Symmetra a pretty specific use case combo up against corners where an orb enemy would deal just enough damage to keep Tracer on her toes.
Well, how are you getting footage of me in ranked? What is going on here?
So hypothetically, if Symmetra could just hold up on her alt fire forever, she could operate a pretty cushy little danger corner indefinitely. But of course, this is Symmetra we're talking about.
Let's get off the stage.
But there is a logic at play which guides this prohibitive design. Without a limiter in place, this capacity to hold onto a charged fire forever would manifest itself as a default state action, rather than a proactive playmaking decision.
Yeah.
And thus, this becomes an issue because the mechanic is intended to gatekeep a burst of impact, otherwise
I'm also glad this Reaper is playing with music on and doesn't hear the right click from Symmetra. I want to point that out. It's always nice when the other player doesn't have sound on.
accessible without a trade-off. And so the presence of this trade-off is the crux, as both the user and the receiver should be able to make informed decisions surrounding the greater stakes at play. In most cases, the developers have done sufficiently enough in establishing both soft and hard limitations on the output of charging abilities. For instance, we're not exactly having to deal with the threat of Zenyatta's death volleys lurking around every corner for all eternity because, well...
takes time. And sound.
The loud and distinct visual and audio cues signal to his enemies to take cover. And this threat is time-gated by the max hold duration of the volley, and so the level of threat can really only be maintained cyclically, not permanently. This encourages the Zenyatta player to not always carelessly charge his fire, as his enemies would simply react to avoiding his volleys, wasting his ammo, and thus exposing his position for the lack of a benefit. The same design template can be observed across most holding charge fire abilities. Most, but not all. You can already name the offenders. Yeah, like, no
if you end up watching this react back Zenbot, which by the way, great video so far. If people watch this, haven't checked out other stuff, this is the first video I've seen. This is great edited. I want to know how many takes that took. I just want to know, out of curiosity, how many takes that took to do that, because that was great. But I just want to know from, like, just after doing some videos and, like, going in and doing stuff, like, to be able to get that perfect, that was awesome. I love that. That's great.
Shocker that these two heroes get flack all the time for being bad design, because they break the mold we've just described. It's no coincidence that playing against a Widowmaker...
What's the channel again? It's called Zenbot. ...often deemed an uninteractive experience. That this hero is allowed to sit on her one-shot threat forever with nary a trace of visual nor audio signals is, well, mind-blowing. And this is a hit scan ability with 70 meters of fall-off. Okay, so I was right on the meter timer.
More than just a cute little danger corner. In the right hands, you're the mole in her whack-a-mole open-world action-adventure PvE game. The fact that Widowmaker has to charge her weapon is such a non-existent trade-off. If her enemy never gets to interact with her during the charging phase, I mean, it could have been even over half a minute since she began charging her fire in her little vacation hideout, and there would be nothing outside of her skinny player model to reactively imply that this is a no-go private zone until after the fact. Compare this to our previous example, and like, how is one not allowed while the other gets to run her mill for the entire existence of the game?
Yeah.
And so it's quite a surprise to me that this isn't already advocated for widely in the general community discourse, because there's the solution right there being featured so prominently across multiple holding charge abilities. All we gotta do is just put it on the hero that needs it the most. It does require a little tinkering with her control scheme, but a little goes a long way. Holding her alt fire now brings her scope up, but it no longer charges the shot. Instead, Widowmaker must now hold her primary fire while in her scoped stance to charge her shot, and to fire by releasing the button, or 2 seconds automatically after reaching the maximum charge. It's kinda like applying the Zenyatta volley treatment, because we don't want Widowmaker to just camp on a sideline forever, ready to discharge her one-shot kill at the instance of a corner's peak. Widowmaker will now need knowledge on when to begin charging her scoped fire, or she'd likely be blanking into an open space once forced to release, and needlessly consuming her ammo and exposing her immediate...
You know, just to pause, I mean, it's kind of... You know, I never really thought about this. Like, there's so many things, like, I'm talking about, like, bringing the range in, but, like, what this does is that means that the first shot can be lethal, but then there's a downtime in between that second shot that wouldn't light up the kill feed as much. So it's like, it's a very interesting concept, actually. I think the problem is the control scheme aspect of it, right? But, like, you know, honestly, like, I was expecting maybe something a little bit different, but it's not, like, bad, is what I'm saying. And once again, I don't know how it would feel. So there's a difference between, like, watching this and being like, this is going to be good, and then how it will feel. On paper, I kind of like the concept. I'm going to be honest with you. On paper, keep that in mind. What I'm getting from this is that you're going to basically have to think about, like, you can't just sit there and go boom, 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 boom. You have to kind of go like boom, boom, boom. Like, there's a little bit more play to it, which allows for a little bit more counterplay. So a Widow could still pop off. It's like the classic from TF2. I don't know much about TF2, but that's cool if that was the case. So it adds a little bit more counterplay. I think the counterpoints at times would be like, you know, how would this feel for somebody in, like, let's say bronze, who may not be hitting the same shots as a top 500 Widow? Is that become an unplayable hero now because, like, it just adds even more? Is that, you know, are people playing a Widow a ton in bronze? There's a lot of data and, like, things I don't have, but I do like the idea and the concept. So there's probably more that goes into it, but that is a very, very interesting concept.
The ability to hold a sideline hostage would be cyclical rather than omnipresent. Ever since the launch of Overwatch 2, there's been a ton of tinkering with role passives and passive buffs and passive debuffs and even reworking abilities into passives.
Hola.
And yes,
Zero,
I know
thanks for
there's
the 21 months.
embodiment
Thank
of
you.
how
I appreciate
not
that.
to design a hero on the screen right now, but the idea is not entirely unsalvageable. It's not a hot take that the latest Sombra rework has made the hero a lot more annoying and quite...
Is this video might be a little bit older, only because the Sombra changes have definitely changed since then.
Kind of one-dimensional.
So,
fortunately for us, that's exactly what Widowmaker is intended to be. One-dimensional by design. If anything, it's what she does against her scope that's the greatest source of frustration to me, such as getting the jump on this long-range sniper, and yet she can still turn around and do her thing at 5 meters anyways.
You thought me weak up close?
yep.
Well, there's no denying the skill expression involved. These are the kind of situations that contradict what is understood to be the win condition, and therefore reinforces the feeling of non-interactivity against a hero who is supposed to lose the...
I love that because I've seen that discussion sometimes, and I try to explain to people, I'm like, listen, it's not about we can't dive the Widow, it's that the other team have their monitor on and just look at their Widow and keep them alive. The Widow gets when the Widow plays all the way back there, okay? I can dive the Widow all day long, but, you know, I'm not trying to let the push bot push 175 meters while I'm trying to get that set up to even get to the Widow for the Brig to armor pack the Widow twice, and we're back to square one. So, like, it doesn't work in that way, and once again, in some ranks, it very much could, right? I understand that. It just, it becomes, it's not as simple as just dive the Widow.
The close quarter encounter. In this process of streamlining the one-shot kill capacity to be more predictable and interactive, and less of a... It's in my opinion that a passive regulator could help achieve this goal.
Okay.
You could tie Widowmaker's bonus headshot multiplier to a passive ability, which displays on the HUD like Sombra's stealth passive. Let's call it Focus.
Let's do it.
An instance of damage is dealt against Widowmaker. It triggers a 2 seconds cooldown on the Focus passive, which then knocks her headshot multiplier down to the baseline value. The focus can then be restored by abstaining from damage, not unlike Sombra's stealth. This ensures that a Widowmaker caught freshly off guard and out of focus would no longer be able to execute an ambusher at its healthiest. In conjunction...
I'll pause for a second, and I will say, I feel like, yeah, 2 seconds is definitely too long. I don't want to get rid of one thing I wouldn't want to get rid of in this situation is the Widow's capability of, like, hitting an amazing shot on a Tracer or an Echo when they go for, like, a flank, right? I think that would, I feel like this would just make it, that would make it way less fun for Widow. I think that part, I still think that it's okay if a Widow is able to make a really cool reactionary play on somebody flanking, only because, like, that's a tough shot. That's a reward and kill for a Widow. And that also comes back to what we've talked about, where when you rail Widow in, right? I still think that I still want to be able to have that option. But I still think I love the idea of putting out different, like, ideas here, because one of the best ways to look at these, you can be like, okay, this one could work, this one couldn't work. It doesn't necessarily mean it's bad. I just don't think it would. I just think you get rid of, like, a really large reward in that play. That listen. Chat knows me and how much I love playing against Widowmaker all the time. If I'm playing Tracer and I get to the Widow and I do a triple blink play trying to one-clip the Widow and the Widow snaps to me and headshots me immediately, I'm not even mad. I'm just like, damn, that's a good shot, right? Now, when a Widow shoots me at 65 meters across the map and I fall over, I go, well, wonderful. You know what I mean?
With the temporary charge mechanic as previously discussed, it should highly mitigate instances whereby the Grim Reaper is seemingly summoned out of the blue, since there would exist a window to either avoid or displace her one-shot capacity altogether before the shot connects. So we've just been talking about how to nerf and limit Widowmaker's capacities. I mean, she's still a highly performing hero even in this post-Sombra rework world, but we've done so far.
Now keep in mind, this was talked about with like not the version of Sombra we see now, just so you know. So this is before that happened. So Widow, obviously, with Sombra being a little bit worse now, has made Widow much better, even more so. But I still think a lot of this still applies.
Far as to circumvent the deletion of her signature ability. And do I honestly wish to see an expansion on Widowmaker's abilities that
Solitary?
pushes
Thanks for the 4 months of the tier 1.
To the forefront.
Thank you, appreciate it.
In typical Overwatch fashion, there is more to this hero than just being the archetypical sniper sitting on a perch. The one big standout is her grappling hook, which is such a prominently featured component of her toolkit in her highlight intros, and that her agility with it was showcased so extensively in her early cinematics that I really can't imagine this hero without it. Yet, the only thing it ever does gameplay-wise is to zip from point A to point B in a straight line, or a hook shot now and then. Which is such a waste, as there is just so much more opportunity to expand on the expression of identity in the fashion that she can own. I'd say we could squeeze a few more additional utilities, and so it's time to get inspired from the likes of... What if Widowmaker could just chill on her grappling hook? This could be assigned to the crouch button during the zipping motion, and she would then swing in place for a maximum duration of 6 seconds, or until grounded.
I don't know about that.
You could say this opens the possibility to perch where there is no ground. However, Widowmaker could probably...
you know, listen, I don't think Widow should... I don't think that would be good. I would get rolled by Spider Widow all day long. That would be back to, like, Spider Widow would annihilate me. And I'm just going to kind of go back to what we were talking about here. If the idea is that you want to give these ways to see Widow is like, oh, Widow is, you know, you can't find Widow. Like, I already have to scan the map like I'm doing a 1,000-piece puzzle, okay? I ain't trying to do a 10,000-piece puzzle against Widow right now. Imagine all the places you have to look around. Where's the Widow? You know what I mean? Like, could it be funny in, like, an April Fool's mode? Absolutely. But, like, I know how that would go. It would not go well. Also, I actually think Grapple's a little bit better than people think Grapple is. I think Grapple's really strong. I'm not saying get rid of it or anything if the other changes that have been talked about are applied here. But I think Grapple's not even that bad. I think Grapple is used more as like a utility to get away and to survive. And like that's also what makes Widow really good, is that when you do get to Widow after spending 6.5 years to find the Widow on like a map like Dorado, second point across the map, then when you finally get there, the Widow grapples away and you have to spend the next 2 minutes going there again to get grappled out again. I still think Grapple's a pretty good ability. So I don't think I would change too much about that if other stuff gets shifted.
Use more dynamics in the close quarter department. The hook is realistically prepped for the disengage from a dive, or to keep distance from her enemies by rotating positions frequently.
Yes.
What if instead of running away from the problem forever, she could actually engage it head on? Think of it as snap kick on a cooldown. We could trigger this by the melee button during the zip.
Okay, I like that.
Now,
that's kind of cool.
It's not the brightest idea to burn her lifeline for what is
I guess that's kind of fun.
Burst of damage.
Yeah, okay, I get.
But then again, she's not supposed to be at the advantage. What it does offer is an alternative course of action.
Yeah, that's kind of cool, you know?
Defaulting to the running and gunning away every single time. At least, give her some dignity and let her defend herself from the so-called pacifist hero.
They teach you that in medical school?
Hopefully, this transforms the grappling hook into a more
broken
multifaceted
keyboard
ability that hones in on the identity of the hero, while also incorporating
more
more decision-making
Holy crap.
opportunities into the Widowmaker experience. That's my 2 cents on this hero whose identity is so clearly on the chopping block from the community. As far as I can tell, it's only a matter of time before the developers would intervene, for better or worse. But looking back at Hanzo's situation with his identity, he truly was an example of something that was so fixable, and yet we chose homogenization and basically deleted him. One-shots aren't even technically sniper exclusive.
He can one-shot more now, though.
Playing a game with a cast of 40 heroes, including gorillas and hamsters and time travelers and killer robots, if the only hero template ever acceptable is...
Chat, you ready? Live footage of your teammates in ranked when you go, where are my teammates?
Hamsters and time travelers.
What are my teammates doing? That's what they're doing. That's what everybody thinks their teammates are doing.
Instead of an Ash 76.
See ya.
I mean, great video. Straight up. I'll link the video in the chat. Make sure to give him like a like on the video, a sub, comment, all that will help him. So like, that was great. That was wonderful. As I was saying, I really think that, like, you know, some of the ideas were cool. Some of them I wouldn't think would work, but I definitely like the, you know, here are some cool ideas. See what they have. You know, maybe you find something that works. I thought that was really cool. I thought that was really cool.